Hello, friends, and welcome back to this week's episode of Thank You, Come Again. Today, I am joined by Ash Melwani, the CMO and co-founder of the health and wellness brand Obvi. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into what it really means to actually create a customer for life. But first, Ash, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, let your audience learn a little bit more about you and what you're up to. So, who is Ash Melwani and who is Obvi?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. Definitely a great opportunity. Love Wonderment. But yeah, I mean, Ash Melwani, grew up in New Jersey, went to university in London with a finance degree, ended up in marketing somehow. Um, you know, spent a good amount of my years after college learning Facebook ads and, just running, a ton of media. Probably spent like 20 million across the accounts that we were managing. Came up in a more like marketing agency background between me and two of my other founders, and we were building up some crazy brands, and we decided I think it's time for us to start our own brand. Hence, Avi started in 2019, and we haven't looked back since. But yeah, I mean, my role, as a CMO is to really nail, the acquisition part. But I think, talking about today's topic of retention, understanding that that is now more important than ever, especially during this time where, acquisition costs are going up. How can you improve LTV? How can you improve, the conversion from a first time customer to a second time? Like, why is that important? And it's all because, lifetime value is so crucial right now. So happy to get into that a little bit more.
Definitely. And finance background, that's super interesting. So I would imagine you bring a lot of that kind of, mentality to the marketing side too, looking at the numbers, being a little bit more data driven. Can you just talk a little bit? Has that kind of lent any sort of kind of like, strength to being a CMO, having that financial background?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of, but I mean, some of the media buying process is looking for trends, right?
Mhm.
Kind of looking into the data, seeing what's happening. You definitely need that like creative, push where it's like you need some type of, inspiration for creative landing pages, this and that, and the whole marketing aspect of it. But it's like, all right, you run something. What are you actually looking at after,
Mhm.
right? How do the numbers
Sure.
stack up? Being in tune with our finance team, it's like, all right, we need to hit certain KPIs for our financial model to make sense. So being able to understand that, I think, is definitely a part of being a good media buyer. So just lucky enough to have some type of experience within just the finance part, just being able to analyze numbers a little bit more clearly, and strategically.
Absolutely. Yeah. I came up as an email and SMS marketer working with performance marketers and having, to really kind of have sort of like that bridging the gap, so to speak, of like one side of the marketing team versus the other side, acquisition, retention, all these things. Like, I think that really makes a well-rounded CMO having that performance background. I think it's just, we're seeing, from what I'm hearing and speaking with people, it's becoming more and more obviously a focal point, but
Yeah.
people are really doubling down, I think, on education there too. So super respect that. But to pull things back, I think you mentioned kind of at the onset, retention. We're talking about this today and some of those themes. You wrote an absolutely just thought provoking tweet that I wanted to just base this episode really around.
Yeah.
And I'll read the quote for quote to quote just to kind of sum it up, but we can kind of dive into it. But you wrote, just because a customer buys from you doesn't mean they're sold yet. Continue the experience post purchase and you'll have a customer for life. Can you talk about like what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are certain times where brands and I've fallen fault to this too. It's like acquiring a customer at all means necessary, right? Does that mean that they're going to be a high quality customer? Does that mean that they're going to come back, another time to make another purchase? Um, that those are things that you have to consider because when you do acquire a customer, just because they've bought from you does not mean that they're fully sold on the brand, right? You
Mhm.
got them into the door, you got them interested in whatever you're selling, whether it's a solution to a problem, right? So for us, it's anti-aging. We're selling a solution to that. You still have to continue the process of nurturing them post click, post purchase, post delivery. You have to educate the consumer, right? So for us, For example, taking collagen, right? Like it needs to be added to your daily regimen. It's not something where you take for 2 days and all of a sudden your hair is going to stop falling out, right? It needs to be added. It needs to be like an entire life change where you're taking this every single day and you're seeing noticeable improvements later down the road, right? So that whole concept of taking it every day, that needs to be somehow, I guess, through maybe email, through SMS, through whatever other channels that you may have. Maybe it's a blog on the website, whatever it is. You have to find some way to educate the consumer while they're taking the product so that they continue to use the product, right? They're not going to be sold until they see the results that they came in for. So taking them down this journey of like, okay, day one, you're going to try it with this recipe. Maybe in a couple days, you want to try it with this recipe. Oh, by the way, you can bake with it. Here are some results that our previous customers have saw. Here's the results they saw at day 30, day 60, day 90. Like those are the things that need to be brought up to that consumer as they're taking it, because one, it'll motivate them to continue taking it, right? Like changing your like routine up is very difficult, right? I mean, I'm sure we all fall fault to this where, you have your daily, you know, wake up and do this, and then adding something into the mix is definitely a little bit difficult to continue doing. So you have to be able to do that. And it's very tough to do that nowadays because like your interaction time with the customer is very limited, right?
Right.
Open rates are whatever they are. They're anywhere from 30 to 50% on email. SMS, it is expensive to hit every single person. And most times, people aren't leaving their phone numbers as much. So how can you like get the value in front of somebody when they're like have the shortest attention span, right? So that I think is when you're selling online, you're selling a click with your ad, you're selling a product with your landing page, and now you're trying to sell them on your brand post delivery, and making sure that they come back month 2, month 3 because they actually enjoy the product and they're seeing results.
I couldn't agree more. I think you brought up some really valid points there too. And being in Obvi's case, a product that needs to be used, consistently to see those results, you have to set that expectation and really make sure that they're following the regimen to see the best possible results. And you mentioned a few channels like email, SMS, kind of delivering some of those things. Like, are you thinking about on those channels then, as you sit down as a marketing team and you map out like what this post purchase journey looks like? Is it you're looking at channel affinity and you're delivering, if someone's super engaged in SMS, like we're only going to speak to them there, email only there. Is it a cohesive journey? Like, how do you kind of think about just orchestration and setting that expectation then?
Yeah. I think it's a more cohesive journey, right? So when it comes down to email, the post purchase flow is typically, all right, like right before delivery, we're sending out information on how to use the product. What are the best ways to use it, recipes, whatever it is. Text message, very similar, but obviously there's less landscape that you can work with. But, we're sending them to kind of like a landing page of here's the information for beginners, right? So it may not be exact the same content, but it's still taking them down that journey of, okay, day one, I need to know how to use it, right? Then a week later, you're kind of checking in and be like, hey, like, do you have any questions? By the way, we have some really cool testimonials from VIP customers, right? Similar on text message, you'll kind of have like a review, like a short review, just reminders, right, to take the product. I think what we've seen is when we do send out like reminder text messages, like even like just the most subtle things, right, where it's like, don't forget to hydrate, right? Like consumers actually love that because one day that as you take a sip of your water, right?
Right.
It's just one of those things where it's like you're just staying on top of mind, but you're not really asking for anything in return, right? It's like, hey,
Sure.
providing this value, and that's what we like to do post purchase through SMS and email. It's constantly like, all right, what's the newest recipe that we just put up on the blog? What's the latest cool review we've heard in our Facebook community? So kind of taking them down their journey. Like I said, like SMS and email is probably the biggest ways to do it. And then also another big thing that we do utilize is in their delivery, we're giving, recipe books, we're giving guidebooks so that at least you have all the tools to succeed. Now it's just on us to like communicate at the right times to just be like, here's the little bit of push that you need. Here's the little bit of motivation. Here's, here's what can happen 90 days out. Here's a really cool smoothie, or like you can make pancakes, whatever it is, like just so that you're continuously exciting the customer about their purchase.
Super, super awesome. And I think what you said is really important. You're continuously making them excited, reminding them, the why they, they choose to buy
Yeah.
Obvi and over other competitors as well, and choosing that and consistently reinforcing that I think is so impactful. But I'd love to understand too, like from the performance marketer side in you, are you like testing out these things and iterating over time? Like what the customer experience looks like post purchase today, like you're testing that out,
Yeah.
consistently. Like just can you kind of talk through what that kind of looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot where we or who I spoke to about this, but like I think that retention marketers should have some sense of like performance marketing in them, right?
Mhm.
So as much as we're like testing, um, or A/B testing ads or A/B testing offers or landing pages, that also needs to be done on a retention end too, right?
Sure.
So like if we are, trying to get somebody to come back a second time, what are the ways that we can do that? Should we be sending customers to a landing page, right? I think a lot of people are like, okay, one and done, you use a landing page for acquisition, and then all right, they'll go to the product page. But like if you're talking about something very specific, I think especially when it comes to first time customers, like I said, like in the tweet that I sent out, they're still not sold yet, right? So trying to like still educate them while they're in between that first and second order, I think you can still utilize landing pages. I mean, we do it for product launches, right? At Avi, we've done quite a bit of product launches around flavor expansions, newer products that kind of fit the ecosystem. And so every time we do launch a new product, it's not just to like a product page with like description, price, add to cart, right? It's like a full like experience where, all right, here's a new product, let me take you through why, like this, as if it was a completely new person to the brand, right? So
Mhm.
like that is how you have to treat the consumers, because one, they may have came in on a collagen protein. Now you're launching apple cider vinegar gummies. Why do they need that, right? They only
Right.
came in for something around hair loss. Why do you need ACV gummies, right? So I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is that what we're trying to start to do now is like, as we're moving a lot of efforts more to retention, it's like we're thinking of it from a performance marketing mindset where you are testing a bunch of stuff and you're not just kind of staying complacent with like, okay, like they bought from me once, they already know the brand, I'm sure they'll convert on like a product page or go to the homepage, right? They're still not sold yet. Continue educating and trying to sell them, because then I think that performs a lot better than just like your standard like, all right, go buy now.
That's a really impactful mindset, and I think that speaks volumes to the success that you're seeing, and thinking about this from that lens, I think is really, really important. I think where things are headed in this space, like retention obviously is, become a buzzword in this space, but now the next evolution of it, I think, is bringing in some of those performance marketing mindsets, testing out, and thinking about too, it's like, yeah, if they bought, the collagen product, why are they going to buy those apple cider vinegar gummies? You need to kind of think about that from that. I think about this too. Like so when I was coming up as a marketer, I worked at a company called Autobrush. We sold hands-free toothbrushes basically. And one of the biggest challenges that we had was like, once someone made a purchase, how are we actually going to get them to buy the brush heads to replace the toothpaste, all these different products that went to the dental care regimen. But it was like you're selling them from almost start again, because they're so used to using other products in their life. Maybe they don't understand the value. Maybe it wasn't why they came to buy in the first place. So yeah, it totally makes sense what you're saying there. I'm curious. So you talked about a lot of the awesome things you're doing, but I think one of the best places to learn is actually from failures as well, or maybe kind of lessons that you've learned along the way. Have there been any roadblocks as you kind of try to overcome creating better customer experiences and retention? Like, and how have you kind of overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think we definitely didn't do a good job at understanding the experience from the consumer's mindset after the fact, right? So like the only thing that we really had in place was leave a review after 50 days, right? And then
Mhm.
like going through that and seeing like how we kind of fared out. But like even throughout the process, we never really measured what was going on. So from like post delivery, like did they have an issue? Um, did they have an issue taking the product? Did they maybe like stop taking it? Why did they stop taking it? Right. So like we never really focused too much on that, because like on the performance side, we're like, all right, how do we keep pumping revenue? How do we keep acquiring customers? I think that mind, like I said, the mindset has completely changed now. you need to really understand the consumer journey and what's happening, right? So, like for example, when it comes to subscriptions, if they're about to pause or cancel, getting that information right away, like why do you want to cancel? Is it because you didn't like the taste? Is it because maybe you didn't see the results, or maybe you can't afford it? I want to know what those issues are so we can fix it, right?
Sure.
We can't continue to like build the brand and you see this churn of customers and you're like not addressing it, right? So like that is probably one of the biggest things that we started implementing, is getting that information from the consumers and making changes accordingly, right? So for example, one of the biggest complaints for one of our flavors on the collagen is that it's too sweet, right? So like what we ended up doing as a fix for that is, and mind you, like we didn't actually make a fix because we weren't paying attention to what they were saying, right? Like you would have these like really VIP customers in the Obvi community who are praising the product like nonstop, and it's like, okay, we don't have a product issue. It's like everybody's loving it, they're praising it. There's a lot of good comments, but then you have this subset of people that are like, they try it and they're like, oh, it's too sweet, I don't really want it anymore, right? So you never hear from them, even if you ask them for a review or you ask them for like their feedback, they're not going to give it to you. So there is more positive comments than the negative, but like you really should focus on the negative, because like for me, I don't know about you, but like if I don't like something, I'm just not going to buy again, nor do I care to like leave a review, because it's like I just don't care anymore, right?
Yeah.
So like literally looking into the negative reviews, even if it's a couple comments or like a lot, you should really address it, right? So getting that information has been super crucial for us. So now, okay, maybe even 7 days after post delivery, is there anything that we can help you with? Are you struggling or whatever it is? Getting that information and then addressing it, right? So back to one of our flavors being a little bit too sweet. Immediately, understanding that, the next round of inventory that we bought, we immediately dropped the sweetness, right? So just like changes like that will instantly change the trajectory of the business, because now those people who were complaining are going to love the product and inevitably become consumers of the brand, right? So I think those are the things that we need to be looking at, especially like I said, acquisition costs are going higher. How can you improve LTV? It's literally looking at the negative reviews, looking at the complaints, and seeing how you can fix it, right? If you've ordered 1,000 units of a flavor and like you're only 900 like you have 900 left, what can you do, right? Maybe the solution is like, hey, this flavor may be a little bit sweeter, so instead of adding 8 ounces of milk, try maybe 12 or 14 so that you can dilute it a little bit, right?
Sure.
Or if the solution is maybe take half a scoop twice a day, right? So giving the solution to the consumers when they're having problems, that is super key, because one, it shows that you actually care about their experience. Two, they'll actually enjoy the product a lot more because you're giving them advice on how to take it properly, and then hopefully they have a better chance of coming back later on.
So much good stuff to unpack, as you mentioned there too. I think one of the things I wanted to zoom in on too is you mentioned kind of almost like the silent majority of some of that negative feedback might never come to the surface, and you have to dig a little deeper. And sometimes, I remember as I was looking through, reviews, it's like, hey, we only have like one or two negative reviews out of like 100, but like maybe we should look at that one or two, because maybe there's a lot of really good information that people just aren't voicing or thinking about. And then
Exactly.
also, and then you mentioned too, so it's that identification piece, but then actually presenting solutions. So whether it's hey, yeah, dilute this or take it twice a day, those different things can really kind of show you're listening and you have that CX mindset. One of the things I wanted to ask you too on that too was how you sort of ingest some of that feedback. Are you meeting with like your CX team regularly? Are you kind of looking at that day over day? Like how do you sort of take feedback and then actually take action on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's 3 or 4 places that we're looking at it. So one is our Facebook community, right? So if somebody kind of comes to the community and there's a common theme around maybe a certain issue, right? How can we now take that information and address it, right? So that's more anecdotal information. Then what we're looking at is reviews, right? So reviews by product, where do they stack up against each other, right? So like, does a product have above a 4.5 star review? Is it below? Is it below a 4, right? So what can we do to like really pinpoint the issues? And then even like looking on Amazon, I think Amazon has the most critical reviewers too. When you go and see your 1 star reviews there, they'll give it to you straight, right? Like
Right.
I think people who review products on Amazon, like they do it because they actually care. And so like that's a really great source of truth for you as a brand. And then the other aspect of it is, you know, looking at and talking to CX, like what are the issues that people are facing? Because you're the ones that are dealing with the people who either want to make a return or get a refund. Why do they want this, right? So a lot of that is anecdotal, but then also implementing ways to collect like, you know, actual data is through surveys, right? So even like um on an email, so you'll have, okay, would you recommend, you know, this to a friend, right? Yes or no, right? And collecting that data. So like, all right, is it 70% yes and like 30% no? Is it like 50-50? Like why is it 50-50, right? So now the people who select no, why wouldn't you recommend it to a friend? Like what issue did you have that you didn't enjoy? And like giving them a place to actually like provide that information to you is super crucial. And by the way, like shout out to like Eli Weiss and a lot of these you know, CX gurus on Twitter, because like they've helped us understand like, hey, you really need to give a shit, right? Sorry for cursing, but like you actually need to care, and so get that information, because as a founder, we can't have an ego, right? Like we aren't going to be perfect, so you need to learn how to fix the mistakes and then also like just become a better brand because of it, and your customers will love you more for it because they're actually listening to them.
100%. And big shout out to Eli. Jess Servion comes to mind as well. Some of the other CX leaders I know that are putting out a lot of great content around, you know, what we should be thinking about and thinking about like in terms of being proactive. I think it's such an underrated, you know, ability for an organization to have, you know, really good alignment with your retention and CX teams, marketing teams, CX teams, whatever you want to call it, and have those feedback loops just consistently. I think it's a theme that I'm seeing with brands that are really putting CX first. But it's super, super impactful too. I think you mentioned like, you know, digging deeper. So if they won't refer it to a friend, like why? You got to dig deeper, find those answers. And sometimes they're like, that's where the gold really is. I think in unblocking a lot of that, you know, turning a casual customer into a customer for life. Um, I wanted to ask you one question. That you have a quiz on site on the Obvi website, and I know quizzes are really big right now in the sort of space, but this quiz essentially is designed, you know, obviously to give them a personalized product recommendation. But are you using any of that data then maybe to like personalize post purchase communication, and if so, like how are you using that?
Yeah. 100%. I think, you know, personalizing the experience is super crucial for even tightening up that relationship, right? So the quiz, and you know, when you first take it, it's asking you what are the problems that you're looking for a solution for, right? So right off the bat, we can tailor, you know, education based off of that, right? So if you're coming here for weight loss, or if you're coming here for more beauty stuff, so like hair, skin, and nails, the education value goes a little bit separate, right? So when it comes down to weight loss, it's like, how do you change your eating habits? How do you change that lifestyle? How do you get a little bit more exercise in while taking Obvi products, right? So that's one set. Then you have like the hair, skin, and nails. It's like, okay, well, you know, when it comes down to like skincare or like hair care, nail care, like certain like advice around that to um, tailor to the customer, so that one, when they do use a product, they're also seeing a little bit more benefits on the collagen end, right?
Sure.
So you know, there's a lot of like emphasis on like getting that like zero party data so that you can completely tailor the messaging in like different directions if you need to. And then you'll know like, hey, you know, this person was having issues with possibly weight loss, okay, and they bought our burn product, right, which is a fat burner. I know that I can probably upsell them on some of the other weight loss products, right, like a detox or like a carb blocker. And like I'll know how to message that because I have that information of like, hey, you know, how often do you exercise? Like I have that information in our quiz, right? So if it's like I'm frequently exercising or I'm not, so I'll know that I can specify that message like, hey, you might see better results if you maybe, you know, get your 10,000 steps in a day or whatever it is, right? Just so that it can help them outside of like, oh, I think you'll really like the detox because it'll help flush out whatever, or I think you really like the carb blocker because it'll block carbs, right? Give them a reason other than like just buy this, right? So like
Mhm.
giving that education is super crucial, and I think that zero party data helps us make better decisions on the messaging.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that anecdote. And I mean, using quizzes myself as a marketer, I definitely can speak to that. Being able to understand what those either pain points or just kind of lifestyle attributes are, and then making that personalized messaging. And even kind of goes back to like what we were talking about earlier. It's like you're learning some of these things that maybe they bought the collagen and you want to cross sell them on something else. Like, how can you take that data intelligently, use it? And then also, it's like the feedback piece of it too. I'm sure for you guys, it's probably a super insightful exercise to be able to see like what are customers saying, what are they kind of coming in, taking this quiz to tell you more about them. Has the quiz at all influenced kind of maybe just how you even generally think about messaging as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can at least acquire the information about like what certain things people care about, right? So that's where that will help in terms of like the messaging standpoints, right? So like if we ask a few questions about what their lifestyle is, so like diet wise, exercise wise, what are they like? Are they drinking enough water? Like are they what kind of foods are they eating, right? So like having that information, even though it's like completely like irrelevant to what product we're recommending, because like we already know they're into weight loss, we're going to show you the three top selling weight loss products, right? But on the back end, at least I can tailor the messaging around like, hey, if you've indicated that you don't hydrate enough, then maybe you might fall under a flow where it's like you might get more hydration reminders, right? So
Sure.
like things like that where it's like you can personalize the messaging from the brand outside of just like sale, discount, offer, blah, blah, blah. Here's this additional piece of wait, why is Obvi better than another brand? Because I actually care enough to like help educate me, help motivate me, help push me. And I think that's been the biggest like I guess I think it's been the biggest characteristic of the brand because like we have our Facebook community. So within there, it's a source of motivation. It's a source of like just togetherness, right? And that's why I think we stand out because that's what we offer. So if you can offer that outside of just like pushing product, that's where I think brands can win because it'll help with loyalty and in
Mhm.
turn retention and stuff like that.
For sure. I think a theme I've heard throughout this conversation is just the connectivity with your customers and really trying to better understand it and address their needs and be that friend and be, just like a thousand steps ahead of them almost and what really is going to be the next thing that they're going to be needing from Avi. So you've talked about this community a lot. I do want to just spotlight a little bit if we kind of know you got probably a lot of questions about this awesome community that you've built, but I think it's one of the most impressive things about Obvi as I did my research on the company was really just how much you've connected with your customers through this community. Can you just talk a little bit for our listeners like about the Obvi community, some of the benefits it's had from a retention and connectivity standpoint with your customers?
Yeah, I mean, we started the community probably a couple months after starting the brand. And people kind of just trickled in, right? Like literally starting from zero. How the whole point was how can we connect with them? How can we stay on top of mind for them? And how can we show them that this is a real brand, right? This isn't like something you saw on Facebook, you purchased and you're never going to buy again. This is like a lifestyle change. And by being able to offer a community where you could get support, you could find people on the same um, path as you, right? If you wanted to go down the weight loss journey, or if you wanted to just improve your overall health, having people around you going through the same thing makes it easier because then you have people to rely on, right? And accountability. So we utilize this group as a way to just connect on that level. It's also great for like just feedback, right? So like, hey, we really want this flavor collagen or we really want this product because we noticed that when people take pictures of like their stacks at home, you can see that they have the collagen or they may have another product too that they're utilizing. And it's like, okay, if we see this common theme of, okay, somebody's using this other brand for a specific product, how can we maybe take that market share because our customers are buying from us? They'll probably buy another product like that too, right? So for example,
Sure.
we saw a lot of people taking PB Fit, right? Peanut butter protein.
Mhm.
And so this was a constant thing that we saw. So like, oh, I love Avi and PB Fit, and like, no disrespect to PB Fit, like they're a great brand, but like, how can we keep those customers from buying something else, right? So came out with a peanut butter flavor, and instantly, like, you start to see less people buy PB Fit because we already offer a solution for that, right? So like, you're just in tune with what the customers are doing. You're not necessarily asking like, oh, what do you want? I mean, there are times where we do that, but like, you
Hmm.
can see what people are doing or using with the product that starts to make sense, right? So
Right.
like, for example, people started adding the collagen to, say, a coffee, right? So now, does it make sense? Like, hey, can we also attract a market that might buy a coffee from, or a coffee flavor from us, right? So, utilizing the community is, so it's like a cheat code, right? Because you have direct access to your customers, direct feedback. If I have a question that like, and sometimes I'll do this for when I'm like stuck on a marketing angle, I'll be like, what did you expect this product to do for your hair, right? And they'll get a whole bunch of comments, and you're like, wow, this is a really cool angle. There's a specific maybe disease, or like, that somebody's going through, and maybe that could be a good angle for us to hit, right? So like, there's so many pieces of information that you can gather from the community, where one, it's really cool because then at least you're talking and you're connecting with them. Two, it's also a cheat code, on at least on the marketing side too, because then you actually understand the consumer mindset and the psychology behind it, and how can you use that on the acquisition channel too. So, using it to connect, and then also helping on the marketing side is it's major cheat code.
I love to hear that. And I couldn't agree more. I think, some of the best communities that I've observed, it's not only, what you're, asking of them, but what you're listening back and you're really taking. It's what you said. It's sometimes you're not directly asking, but you're just seeing what they're writing, what they're posting, just trying to connect a little bit more. And then ultimately too, like using that as a, sort of a testing ground for you to get new ideas, think about how the business can continue to innovate and meet those needs. This has been so insightful, Ash. I super appreciate it. Before I let you go, would love to understand what are some of the things you're thinking about in 2023 as you think about like what are those bets that you're going to be making on CX and retention?
Yeah. I think some of the, after even talking to, like I said, some of these pros in the field, really making sure that the experience is extremely special for that somebody. So like, within CX itself, like, kind of not relying on these automated messages, and actually having a conversation with somebody if they have a problem, right? So like, if they may not like something, instead of being like, okay, well, if you want to return it, refund, we'll fill out this form and we'll process a label.
Mhm.
Understanding why they're not enjoying it, how can you offer solution? Say they get a certain flavor, they don't like it, like, hey, my favorite recipe with this is this, can you, maybe you might like that better, or I can suggest another flavor, whatever it is. So building that communication and connectivity with, like, just on like CX alone will probably, one, save you from a lot of returns and refunds, but then also get you a little bit more information on that side. Like, okay, there's a lot of complaints about this specific product. What can we do to fix it? Right. Um, in terms of like, I think community will always, be top of mind. So how can we, continuously build community and on different platforms, right? So within Facebook, within our app, on YouTube, Instagram, like stuff like that. Like, how can we continuously build that just so that we're always on top of mind? And then also kind of, like I said, just building out these checkpoints so that you understand what's going on throughout the journey. So you're not just guessing, right? So
Mhm.
post delivery, how's their experience? A couple weeks out, how's your experience? Another month or two out, how's your experience been? This way, like, you can still measure the data that's coming in and then make changes accordingly, so that you can tighten up that churn rate, and then hopefully, convert the first time customers into customers for life.
Love it. No, that's a great way to bring it all back to the theme on the onset here. But I think, this has been an amazing just overview, I think, of how you see the world. Obviously, a lot of the performance marketer definitely shines, I think, in how you're kind of speaking to things. And it's really exciting to see what you guys will accomplish in 2023 and beyond. I think there's just there's a lot of things you've been building. I'm sure the momentum will continue to roll through, and we'll have to have you on again soon to chat through some of that. But before I let you get out of here, I do actually want to ask, where can customers, or I guess listeners, not customers, excuse me, where can listeners go to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter, at Ashvid Melwani. And just a small plug, Ron and I started our own podcast called Chew on This. So definitely check it out. We talk a little bit more about what went into building the brand, product launches, the community, this and that. So definitely check it out.
Highly recommend it. The first few episodes have been fantastic. So chew on this.
Thank
We'll
you.
we'll link out all that in the show notes. But Ash, again, super appreciate it, my friend. We'll have to have you on again really soon.
Awesome.
But best of luck in BFCM, and can't wait to hear from you soon.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me.